Okay, confession time. I've been getting a lot of messages from you guys about my scene card template, which I shared in this video, and the general vibe of these messages is all the same.
OMG, help me. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I get halfway through this scene card and I feel like I'm giving too much information, not enough information. I don't know if I'm doing this right. Help.
Maybe you're worried that you don't have enough detail for your scene, or maybe you're worried that you have too much detail. Either way, it's totally normal to feel a little bit confused and overwhelmed. That's why in today's video, I am pulling back the curtain on my own process and showing you exactly how I fill out my own scene card template using an example from my novel, The Otherworld. So you'll get to look over my shoulder and see exactly how I outline a scene before I write it, so that I make sure I am bringing that juicy internal conflict and tension and moving the plot forward with every single chapter. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Abby and I help writers make their stories matter and make their author dreams come true. And if that's something you're on a mission to do, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel. I would love to have you here in the community. Okay, let's talk about the biggest misunderstanding that most writers have when it comes to outlining a scene. The internal versus external struggle. Here's an easy way to look at it. External is what's happening to the character. Internal is what's happening inside the character. So if a lion is chasing you, that's external conflict. If you're wondering whether you're lovable while the lion is chasing you, that is internal conflict. Another way I like to look at it is what's happening on the surface versus what is happening beneath the surface. For example, let's take a low stakes situation. Let's say we have a character named Margot and she is walking into a Starbucks to get herself a pumpkin spice latte. But then she realizes that her ex-boyfriend is standing right in front of her in line and he hasn't noticed her yet. This is the crossroads moment. Does she quietly slip away and avoid this awkward interaction and forgo her latte? Or does she stand her ground and face some uncomfortable consequences, maybe? So you can clearly see the distinction between internal conflict and external conflict here. What's happening on the surface? Margot wants a latte, but now she's considering not buying one. Pretty boring conflict, right? Pretty low stakes. If that was all it was, we wouldn't care. We would be bored. We would not be emotionally invested in watching Margot debate standing in line or leaving Starbucks. So what's happening beneath the surface is really what adds that layer of intrigue. Margot wants to be strong and unbothered even in the presence of her ex, but deep down, she's really afraid of having an awkward, uncomfortable encounter with him. And pro tip, in every single external conflict situation, you can usually dig down beneath the surface and figure out what is that desire versus fear conflict that's at play inside of my character. What's going on in their head right now? What's going on in their heart? This is what makes your story addictive and sparks curiosity in your reader's brain. Because they're not just watching a character move from point A to point B, they are watching a character make 1,000 micro choices based on their internal conflict as they navigate the world and the obstacles in their path. Okay, before we dive into the scene card template, I want to take a quick moment to redefine the word scene. A lot of writers get confused when they're filling out the scene card because they think that every scene has to have these high stakes moments, these big, exciting, pivotal moments in every single chapter. And that's not true. Especially if you're writing a short scene where maybe it's a low stakes moment or there's not a lot going on, or it's flowing right into another scene that's more significant. That's why I like to think of stories as not being broken into scenes, but into sequences. A sequence might be one scene, it might be one location, one topic, one conversation, a small moment, or it might be several scenes that are stitched together to create this sequence. It might switch point of view. It might show the passage of time. It might be a montage sequence. A sequence might involve multiple chapters, or if you write longer chapters, then you might even have multiple sequences in each chapter. I know all of that sounds a little confusing and overwhelming, so we're gonna break it down to be super simple and just look at it this way. Every good sequence has the same structure. A beginning, a middle, and an end, which is the setup, the conflict, and the resolution. Does that sound at all familiar to you? It probably should ring a bell if you've been on my channel for any length of time, because this is the backbone of the 3-act story structure, which is what I'm constantly talking about. The character-driven 3-act story structure follows this similar flow of setup, conflict, resolution. And if you break your story down into these sequences, you will see this same story arc happening over and over again throughout your story. Now, if you're already super familiar with my scene card template, you can skip to this timestamp right here. But if you want a quick refresh, we're gonna just go over the basics of the scene card template and why this structure works. So we have these 3 beats that create the arc of a scene or a sequence. First, we start with the setup. This is where your characters first walk into the scene. So they have some internal conflict already brewing, some doubts, some desires, some fears, but they also probably are dealing with some external conflicts as well. Maybe some action of the plot is affecting them, and they're gonna have to decide in this scene how they're going to react to it and respond to it and move forward. Whatever's going on, tension is rising because we're building towards the main midpoint of the scene, which is the conflict crossroads moment. This is the pivot point where your scene could go 2 different ways depending on how your character reacts to what's happening. And how are they going to react? Usually their next decision is going to be based on their beliefs. It's going to be based on their internal conflict, what they want, what they're afraid of, the lies that they tell themselves. And that is going to lead us to the outcome of the scene. Of course, we don't want to resolve everything in the outcome moment of the scene because we want our readers to still be curious about what's going to happen next. We want to pull them into that next chapter, right? Yeah, right. And that's where we have a moment at the end to raise a new question, some open loop that we can create to spark curiosity to get your reader to flip that next page and keep reading. The idea and the ultimate goal is to make it so there is no good place to put your book down. Now, with that being said, let's look at an actual example of the scene card filled out and how I filled it out using an example from my novel, The Otherworld. So we're gonna break down chapter 2, which is when we start to see some real conflict beginning in the story. And I'm gonna show you exactly how I filled out the scene card for chapter 2. But first, I wanna tell you about a special live training that I'm hosting this weekend on this exact topic. I'm calling it Scene Alchemy, how to turn simple ideas into powerful page-turning scenes. Have you ever written a scene that's technically hitting all the right points, but something is missing? And you can't even figure out what? There's no spark, no tension, no excitement. Just characters going through the motions, moving from point A to point B, with a whole lot of fluff in between. In this live training, I'm going to teach you my techniques for transforming any scene, even those quiet, uneventful ones, into something that your reader cannot look away from. In this training, you will learn the 4 core elements every great scene must have, no matter the genre, how to create micro tension that hooks the reader even in a low stakes moment, how to craft effortlessly smooth scene transitions that hold your reader's attention, the secret difference between a scene that moves the plot and a scene that moves the reader, how to revive dead scenes, the ones that feel flat, slow, or lacking conflict, and my personal system for breaking down scenes using my scene card template. By the end of this training, you'll know exactly how to craft scenes that come alive with energy and momentum and keep your reader flipping pages late into the night. It's happening Saturday, December 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you can't make it to the live stream, don't worry, you will still have access to watch the replay on demand anytime you want, and the link to that is below this video. So click the link to sign up, save your spot, space is limited, and if you're watching this after the fact, you can click that link to watch the replay on demand. Plus over 40 other live trainings in the archive vault. There's so much to explore over there, so I hope to see you there this weekend. Click the link below to save your spot. So at the scene card heading, we first have an area to label the scene. For my case, it's chapter 2. The point of view character is Jack Stevenson, who is one of my main male characters in this book. And really briefly, I like to write out the goal of the scene at the top of the scene card. Jack discovers that the Coast Guard has ceased the search for his brother, and he flies out to look for Adam and ultimately reaches an emotional breaking point. So in the story, his brother Adam went missing in a plane crash and nobody knows what happened to him. So Jack is kind of taking matters into his own hands in this chapter and getting desperate. And the setup is basically this. The chapter opens with Jack waking up from a nightmare about finding his brother dead in the wreckage of his plane. Over coffee, he speaks with his parents, who are both grieving Adam's loss. They've just received word that the Coast Guard is giving up the search, believing Adam's chances of survival are 0. Jack is not ready to accept the grim possibility of his brother's death. Okay, so that's where we really start the scene, and this is building the tension, it's building the groundwork for the crossroads. With every sequence in your book, when you can, you want to bring it back to internal conflict. What is this character dealing with beneath the surface that makes us empathize with them and care about them? Jack reaches a crossroads moment here. He could either accept Adam's loss and grieve with his parents, or continue to hold out hope that Adam is alive and actively participate in the search. Fueled by furious desperation, Jack storms out of the house and drives to the port, determined to look for Adam himself. He pilots a seaplane in dangerously overcast weather, having a flashback to when Adam taught him how to fly solo. His search proves futile and risky. And that leads us to the outcome of the scene. Jack stays out for the rest of the afternoon, unable to confront the crushing weight of his parents' grief at home. When he finally returns in the evening, he talks to his mother, who urges him to let go of Adam and accept the truth so that he can help her bear it. But Jack is not ready to accept it, at war with himself over his mounting grief and rage, feeling like it should have been him and not Adam who went down. Jack storms out of the house again, reaching an emotional breaking point as he punches a hole in the barn wall and breaks down in tears. Then, in his darkest moment of despair, his cell phone rings, and it's Adam. And that leads us to the new question, and that's really like the cliffhanger moment that we end the scene on, we end the chapter on, which is when Jack answers the call, he's greeted by the unfamiliar voice of a girl. Who is she? What is she doing with Adam's phone? That's kind of the question that he's asking himself at the end of that scene. But of course, we know who it is because Orca has been introduced. She is the main female character of the story. And in chapter 1, we saw her find the cell phone. That's what you want to do with your new question. That is your golden opportunity to open a new loop in your reader's mind and make them curious about what might happen next. And as you can see, looking at my scene card here, you can see that it's multiple scenes. Like if we were to break it down into scenes based on changing location, we could say there are probably 3 to 4 scenes in this one chapter. We have a scene in the house where he's having coffee with his parents, and then he leaves, and then he goes to the port, and then he takes this plane out, and then he comes back, and then he goes back home. So you could say those are multiple scenes, but the reason I'm breaking it down into this structure of this particular sequence, this scene card, is to show you the arc of this chapter. And that's really what pulls us through and holds our attention, is when we can see and feel and experience that story arc. Think of it like all of these little mini arcs that are carrying us along the path of your story. That's like a roller coaster ride, up and down, up and down, up and down. And that momentum and that pacing is what keeps your reader's brain intrigued. So now it's your turn. Take this scene card, take the example that you saw me use today, and bring it to your own work in progress and see if you can break down your next scene or sequence or chapter into this structure, into this setup, crossroads, outcome, new question. What would happen if you started looking at every sequence in your book like its own little mini arc, taking us on this roller coaster ride throughout the whole story? And if you want to learn more about crafting stronger scenes that keep your readers turning pages, then you definitely don't want to miss this upcoming live training. Again, it is happening December 6th, which is Saturday, at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So click the link below to save your spot. Also linked below is my scene card template. So if you haven't grabbed that already, you can click below to download it. It comes with a PDF version as well as a printable version, a DocX version. So you can copy and paste it or you can print them out. And there are also instructions in there of how to create the scene card template inside of Scrivener if you're using Scrivener. And if you're happy with the structure of your scenes, but you feel like it's your actual descriptions and your writing that falls flat and needs help, I highly recommend checking out this video. That's where I share my top 4 techniques for making your prose shine and leap off the page. That's a great companion next watch to this video. So I will see you over there, or I will see you in the next one. Until then, my friends, happy writing, and as always, rock on.